I played a lot of Sonic when I was a kid, definitely to an unhealthy degree. You could ask my parents, there were many talks about putting me in an asylum. Weirdly enough though, thinking back to those days, a lot of the time I wasn't actually playing the game. Properly, at least. Let's take Sonic Unleashed for example. I played that game a fair amount on my dad's old PS3 and definitely racked up dozens of hours of playtime, but most of my fondest memories weren't of the levels, but instead the hub worlds. I loved hanging out in these things, messing around and talking to all the NPCs. There was a strange magic to it that hasn't been conserved in more recent titles. So, in a desperate attempt to relive my ever-distant youth, I want to go through and explore some of the cool little details and fun spots and things I found in a handful of these Sonic Unleashed hub worlds. Mazuri's hub world is an interesting one. Right from the get-go you can see how much smaller it is than most of the other hubs in this game, especially compared to what the player has been to before at this point in the game. The whole hub consists of just 6 proper houses in a circle, with a shop in the middle and an entrance stage just to the right. Geographically, the country is heavily inspired by Africa, and its architecture takes heavy inspiration from many African countries and cities, the latter mainly being Timbuktu. I don't know a ton of the history behind that. Go watch a Needle Mouse video or something for a lesson or whatever. Alright, first and foremost, probably the thing most people notice when entering this hub world, the giant tree. It's really neat. It's such a grand structure that dwarfs everything else in the surrounding area. It really helps centralize and add character to the village. It also makes me dwell on its significance to the Mazuri residents. What does it mean to them? Is it an important landmark? Probably. They went and added a gift shop inside of it. I'm sure they get a ton of tourists. I love that you can easily see all sorts of wildlife outside the village, such as zebras and... ew. It really makes the village feel alive, you know? This is a place out in the savannah. Of course there'd be tons of wild creatures freely roaming about. I really like the added touch of the butterflies hovering about the village. It's not something you'd actively think about while playing the game normally, but they add this extra layer of ambience that makes this feel like a real, lived-in place. This is the same with the people too. Of course, as NPCs, they don't do too much, but interacting with them can help you learn more about the surrounding area and how they feel about the events of the game. Even outwardly, they show lots of personality. Take this kid for example. He's fucking terrified of the blue mutant that just came wandering into his town. And rightfully so. Alright, time for cool spots I found fucking around. Since it's a much smaller hub, there weren't too many weird places I can find my way into, but the ones I did find were kinda neat. This taller building to your right as you enter the hub has always fascinated me. It's got a little overhang that I've always wanted to stand on. You can try jumping up the ladder, but you'll just slip down 100% of the time. What you want to do is jump on this torch to the left, and then carefully land to jump on the overhang. Pretty easy. This spot has a cool view of the village you can't get anywhere else. Another thing I found is that you can actually stand on these wooden pegs in the big wall at the entrance of the village. It takes some precise jumping to actually keep your footing on these things, but it's kinda cool that you can do it. It makes me wonder if you can climb all the way to the top. I tried, kept slipping down though. And that's Mazuri. The zebras and wretched beasts in the background help it feel so wild, unlike any other village manages to capture. Architecturally, it's gotta be one of the most unique locations in the game too. What a good time. 8 out of 10 village. Would sacrifice my family to the draft here. Pickle! Ah, Spagonia. Home to so many wonders, such as this grand clock tower, prestigious university, and him. This is probably the hub world I spent the most time in as a kid, since it's one of the central locations of the game's storyline. If you weren't already aware, Spagonia is based off of several European countries, including Italy, England, and unfortunately France. I can especially see the Paris influence with how the city is structured. It's very walkable and grand. It probably doesn't help that's the only real-life point of reference I have to this place. The hub is made up of several winding streets that the player can walk through, each lined with buildings for miles. Looking at it from above, it all looks very cluttered or claustrophobic, but running through them feels quite the opposite. There's a few open sections where you can encounter NPCs hanging out and going about their lives, as well as a few dark, creepy alleyways clearly inspired by London. At the end of the main path, you'll find Spagonia University, a grand building that stands out even among the already beautiful city. I like this little statue with the pigeons on top of it. It's cool. In the distance you can see several massive buildings elsewhere within the city. There's a bunch of massive walls, some of which you run along in the daytime stage. I'm not exactly sure what their practical purpose is since they seem to just go through the city, but they're pretty cool to look at. You can also spot the clock tower you climb as the werehog in his level. Neat. I really think it's neat that the team took their time to detail the insides of a lot of the buildings. It adds so much extra character to some of these buildings that really could have been easily covered up by a PNG in the window that I doubt many people would have batted an eye at. All these flowers really make this shop feel alive, and the merchant stall is actually filled to the brim with stuff you can, in theory, buy. I don't know why, but I was fascinated with this hair salon for a while. This window does use a PNG, but it uses it as a backdrop of a scene with some existing set pieces. There's a bunch of people moving around inside too, which I didn't see on too many of the other buildings. I guess it helped it feel more real. Speaking of the people, some of the NPCs are pretty cool dudes. Like this guy, who owns the dorms of the university and is second besties with Professor Pickle. I'm first besties with Pickle. He's mine. Here's a weird thing I found as a kid. There's this section down one of the alleyways that is normally only accessible by grabbing a ledge with the werehog. It leads up to this rooftop dining area with a hidden sun metal at nighttime. However, did you know that you can actually access it during the day? If you carefully jump just right on this little porch light here, Sonic will actually be able to stand on its collision and can jump higher up to the rooftop. I've always found it cool that he just stays spinning for a while after landing on this too. I think I was just deprived of the spin dash as a kid, but this was just the coolest thing. I don't know, I just like this spot in the daytime. It's a nice hangout area. If you've ever tuned into one of the race streams, you might know about this infamous spot, the dreaded tree. This tree has several purposes, such as adding some greenery to the busy city, being evil, and of course, providing an excellent spot to talk about. With some careful jumping and a precise homing attack, you can land Sonic on top of the tree, but the magic doesn't end there. Early in the game, the entrance stage will be blocked off by a gate. However, you can bypass this by getting on top of the tree and then homing attacking towards a very specific spot just above the gate's wall. Maybe you're not so bad after all, Mr. Tree. As you might already be aware, Professor Pickle's been kidnapped? Or has he? Early in the game, you're informed about the disappearance of our beloved Pickle and sent out to look for him. However, all is not what it seems. No matter how hard you try, you can't investigate Pickle's own lab for clues. An invisible wall has seemingly materialized in front of the door. Curious. With a small hop, homing attack, and a press of the B button, you can actually drift around the hub world. Using the drifting speed, you can throw Sonic up the stairs, over the wall, and into the laboratory, where you'll find none other than Professor Pickle! I'm so glad you're okay! This doesn't change the progression of the game or anything, I just think it's funny. The last thing I'm quite fond of is this little glitch. Pausing a game on a rail stops all of Sonic's momentum. Even unpausing the game, he still just sits there like a little dude. He's just a little guy, look at him. You can do this in other hub worlds and entrance stages with grind rails in them too, but I'm not fucking talking about those right now, am I? This is a core memory I have tied to Spagonia. It's special here. Look at him wobble, it's so silly. I hope you all enjoyed my rambling about Spagonia. I don't really know why I'm like this. This is definitely something to be concerned about. Even my girlfriend thinks it's weird. But anyways, 9 out of 10 city would get my higher education here. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Adabat? Maybe it's the beaches, maybe it's needing just one more sun medal. For me, it's the beauty of the place, especially at night. My mind always goes back to the cutscene with Sonic and Chip on the dock. The setting is gorgeous. I really love all the ruins in the distance. It adds a lot of character and history to the little village. Not entirely sure if they're inspired by anything specific, but they're pretty cool nonetheless. The entire village itself is built above the water. Think of a fishing village or Esgaroth from The Hobbit. It's pretty much that minus the dragon looming in the mountain. Just looking around, you can really tell that these people's lives revolve around the sea. Every building here has something going on. Whether it's a fish or tropical fruit market or storing goods from the surrounding area, the village just feels so alive and lived in. The people here are cool as fuck too. Here's Jamal. He loves it here. Look how whimsical and full of joy he is. What a guy. This also seems like a good time to talk about the hot dog man. This dude appears in every hub world and offers you extra challenges within the country's main stages. It might just be a little extra something for the player to get out of these hub worlds, but the dedication this vendor has to travel around the world just to sell you hot dogs is remarkable. Truly something to be admired. Something I never actually gave much thought on previous playthroughs is what goes on inside these people's huts. Like, it's not of any significance to the player, and you really don't even have a good look at them normally, so I'd honestly have just assumed there was nothing going on at them if I didn't know any better. But nope, pretty much every house is, for the most part, fully furnished and very visibly lived in. Let's take a peek into this house. There's a whole dinner setup and food all around. Also a pair of weird kids doing some sort of ritual or something. I don't know, man, I'm scared. And this house with a bunch of crates and 2 individuals having a conversation. This has no reason to exist. I guarantee you 99% of players will never see this, yet it exists anyways. And I think that's cool. Looking around, there doesn't seem to be a ton of wildlife in this place. However, look into the sea and you'll see something wild. I'm so fucking clever. There's a bunch of fish, like a lot, all swimming around in predetermined circles. I didn't fully notice them before, but it's interesting to me. I like fish. There's not a whole lot of weird, goofy spots I have to talk about here, especially since I messed around here at night where the werehog is less agile. But there are 2 cool hangout places I think are pretty chill. Number 1, under the floorboards. You ever want to get away? Well, now you can. Meet me under the floorboards between 1 and 4 AM and we can get away together. Number 2, this island I honestly didn't know you could get to until Nokai showed me during. It's got trees and sand and stuff. Reminds me of SpongeBob. Good stuff. And that's all I gotta say. I'd give this location a 10 out of 10. It really is beautiful. From the sky to the sea, everything has such great detail and it all fits together perfectly. God, I wish Indonesia was real. I know a lot of this video was spent joking around, but I really do find these hub worlds to be a beautiful thing. As a kid, I absolutely loved messing around and hanging out in these places, and it was great to be able to find that same joy as an adult. I know it's not what everyone wants, but I really hope lovely, lived-in places like these, where you can just exist and have your own fun in, come back to the series in the near future. They're a beautiful addition I believe would only enrich the experience. You can also enrich your video viewing experience by subscribing, following me on Twitter, and watching more of my videos. Like, it just makes sense. Do it! Also, subscribe to the Dreamcast. We might upload once every 5,000 years. No promises.